Item number 1, acceptance of meeting minutes. Minutes from meetings of April 26th, May 3rd, May 9th, and May 12th, 2016 to be accepted and approved by the Town Council. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made by Councilwoman Brady, seconded by Councilwoman Catanzaro. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Proposed ordinances. Notice was given of a public hearing on this day whereby the Town Council will consider passage of the following proposed ordinances. 2, operating budget, 16-007, adoption of the 2016-2017 operating budget, ordinance number 16-007. Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to remove other financing sources of the used fund balance from the budget
So
for
moved.
$11,000.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Juicy, seconded by Councilman Brady. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it, and I'd like to reduce the auditing of financial record line item back to $35,000.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Brady, seconded by Councilman Juicy. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Do I have a motion to adopt operating budget ordinance 16-007?
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Warren, seconded by Councilman Brady. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman?
underneath the page, thank you, underneath the page for the capital expenditures, underneath the police department, it says, public safety complex asset forfeiture funds, upgrade animal shelter asset forfeiture funds. In the upgrade animal shelter, it says a number 5, and that indicates that we're doing that with a bond. I thought we were doing that with the asset forfeiture money.
Let's go. Here we go. Okay.
Yeah, I was under the impression that it would be coming out of the federal forfeiture as well. But
Right, I mean, it's categorized as a bond, so I don't think we're going out for a bond for it, so I just thought it should be a 2, and then,
Under public buildings, rehab animal control, it's coded 1 and 2. There is,
right,
that part is going under Google.
right. So I don't think the first one we were doing with a bond. I thought the whole project was going to be a 1 or a 2.
so do you want to propose?
I just want to make sure that we're approving the right thing for your, for the animal shelter.
So you want to make a motion to change that to
A 2.
2?
I'll make a motion to change that to 2, which recognizes Google forfeiture funds as the funding source.
Okay, a motion's been made by Councilman Catanzaro. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Warren. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
And I have one other comment.
Okay.
Under the public safety complex, if you read our ordinance, we do recognize now, which I'll thank you for, in our ordinance, that Google money is part of a budget. In the capital expenditures, it's showing that the public safety complex in $14 million. What I'm not in favor of is that it states in the ordinance that once we approve the budget, the Google money does not come back to the council like any of the other capital improvements that have to be purchased through the town. In my opinion, By doing it this way, it denies the public of any public hearing of the spending of that money. I'm staying consistent with how I feel about transparency on how that money should be spent. So I just want to say for the record, I am not in favor of just approving the money that way, carte blanche, and not having a public hearing how that money's to be spent. That's
Okay.
it.
Okay, so a motion's been made and seconded for the adoption of the 2016-2017 operating budget. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 3, private detective license. Town council to consider approval of a new private detective license from James B. Barberi of Claims Advantage Incorporated, located at 1845 Smith Street, North Providence. Is Mr. Barberi here? Could you just please step to the... Just state your name for the record, sir.
James B. Barberi.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Barberi?
Number
School. Volunteer school for 17.
He has everything, all of his paperwork is in order and then some.
three. Thank you.
So hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to grant the private detective license.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Warren, seconded by Councilman Brady. Any further questions? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4, victualling license. Town council will consider approval of a victualling license for Evdukia Militav, DBA Sammy's House of Pizza, at a new location of 1388 Mineral Spring Avenue, North Providence, Rhode Island. Is that person here? Could you just please state your name for the record? How'd I do? I tried.
I guess not so well.
Does anybody have any questions?
What's that near? Where you moving near?
It's 1388 Mineral Spring Avenue. It's
Yeah.
two,
Across
it's
from
one
Friendly's.
street.
Across the street from Friendly's on the Diagonal, right?
No, it's Ryan Woodward Road. It's
Oh,
across
I'm
the street
sorry.
for Speedway. if I'm not
Okay,
Where?
say it again.
It's across the street for Speedway. It's right on the corner of Woodward.
Wooded Road in
Yeah,
Middle
Woodward
Springs.
Road
Oh,
in
okay.
MSA.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, sorry?
Is there any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to grant the victualling license pending all necessary requirements.
So
So,
moved.
second.
Motion's been made by Councilwoman Brady, seconded by Councilwoman Catanzaro. Any further questions? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Good luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Item number 5, vendor license. Town council to consider the approval of a vendor license to sell fireworks from Keith Lambert, DBA Keystone Novelties Distributors, LLC, at 1350 Mineral Spring Avenue. Hi. Good. Can you just state your name for the record, please?
Melissa Corsack. Melissa Corsack?
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Ms. Corsack?
You selling out of a parking lot
Excuse me,
or out of a store?
in the tent set up in parking lots.
That's where the workout world is. And
Yeah, right.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the vendor license for Keystone Novelties?
So moved.
Motion's been made by Councilman Juicy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Catanzaro. Any further questions? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 6, peddler license. Town council will consider the approval of a peddler license from Keith Lambert, DBA New England Novelty, to sell novelties at Naughty Park for the Independence Day celebration. Does anybody have any questions about the... Go ahead, Councilman.
No fireworks, right?
No, he sells novelty items.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to grant
So moved.
the peddler license? Motion's been made by Councilman Catanzaro, seconded by Councilman Warren. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Item number... Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Item number 7, Evans Field dugouts receive request from Jessica Iozzi to repair, to discuss the condition of the dugouts at Evans Field. Ms. Iozzi here? Is there anyone here about Evans Field dugouts? Okay, well, I'll just give a brief, I'll give a brief discussion. I know that several of us have been contacted. It's in myself and Councilman Catanzaro's district. Mr. Curtis contacted me, and I had spoke to the administration today. They said the dugouts have been power washed. New padlocks were put in place. This way to monitor who goes in and out of them. Councilwoman Brady had also called me concerned. People had reached out to her. And the president of the North Providence West Little League now has a key to monitor the use of the field and the dugouts. Would you guys like to add anything?
I just had a question.
Councilman?
The photos we have in front of us, it says toilet paper from the Porta-John that has been tipped over. There are restroom facilities there. Why do we need a Porta-John? Was there a
Can I-
special event? Do we own the Porta-John?
Mr.
Councilwoman,
President,
go
may
ahead.
I answer that? When I was called to the location by Ms. Iozzi, she showed me where the toilet paper had actually been stuck. It almost looked like plaster outside the Porta-John, and she informed me, I said, you know, why aren't you using the restrooms? And there were no restrooms available for the children. And there have been children who have soiled their feet from matter in the Porta-John, and there was a large amount of toilet paper impacted on the walkway going over to where the dugout was. So I called Chief, as soon as I heard about it, Chief Fossa, and he got on it right away. There was also broken glass near the brick building where the snack bar is, and there was a huge amount of graffiti, obscenities that had been painted on the walls of the dugout that were clearly unfit for children or any of our residents to view. So I'm happy to, I know it's been cleaned up, but I just think it's something, and I'm sure that the parks, you know, the park will be kept clean by Public Works. But it was very disturbing to the residents to find what they find in those dugouts when they arrive for their children to participate in a sporting event.
Why doesn't the head coach have a key, so while the games are being played and the children are there, the restrooms are open, and then when they leave, they're responsible for locking it up? So if it's a matter of a couple of hours, then at least the children will be able to use the restroom that's right in the park.
Well, that's something that needs to be worked out, and I had suggested to Ms. Iozzi that she meet with the administration to put in place a plan for the use of the facility to circumvent some of the problems that they've been experiencing, so that at least that aspect of it could be addressed. And I know that they had a number of other ideas that they wanted to share with the council, but they're not here this evening, so.
Even the person who's running the vending could have the key, so if they're there for multiple hours, for a few games, it's not just up to the coach. You know, if there's a few.
There was a time, the head of the Little League had a key. I used to coach, so I had a key to those dugouts. Well, it's one dugout, I believe, that has the closet and the restrooms. That was years ago.
When I was involved with the Jets, we had a key to the restrooms down there, and the agreement was that we had to clean them up before we left the field and locked up behind us, right? So
Well, I think it's,
do the same thing down there.
go ahead, Councilman.
Mr. President, I will just comment, I was at the girls, the high school girls fast pitch softball game the other night, and people were using the Porta-John in Noddy Park, and I said, why are they using that when there's a restroom in a brick building? It's actually one of the teachers from the high school.
Right.
And he said, oh, they're not allowed to, just the food part of that building is open. So I don't understand.
I don't either.
Maybe Chief can help us understand
Oh,
that.
we'll look into it.
First of all, Mr. Chairman, let me just say that, I don't know whether it was Thursday or Friday, I received a call from Councilor Brady regarding the condition of the field, the dugouts and so forth. And I guess you called me about 10 of 8 in the morning, quarter of 8 in the morning. So I went over to Evans Field about 8 o'clock, and DPW was already there, as they are every single day. And if you like, if you're up that early, drive by there in the morning after the facility is cleaned that night and see what kind of debris you find around there. Mrs. Brady told me about the dugouts, that people were urinating in them during the night and smoking pot in there during the night. So I went with Mr. Marciano, Kenny Marciano, and checked the dugouts. They were banged up a little. So I spoke with Jimmy Ferroli, who's our building fellow. I said, could we put gates on these dugouts with locks? He said, that's a possibility. I said, call to see how soon we could get it done. I spoke with Mrs. Iozzi after you gave me her number, and the gates were put up, I believe, yesterday morning. Hopefully that will solve the dugout problem. I had a suggestion from Mrs. Iozzi that we take the dugout down and just fence it in. But the reason why the dugouts are like they are is because when that was fenced in, the coaches says, could we cover the dugout so the parents stay away from the kids during the game, so we got 15 coaches on the field. So that's why we have dugouts. And so in any case, the dugouts are not coming down because we got the gates on them. I think the problem might be solved. It wouldn't surprise me if they cut the locks on any given day. The bathroom facilities have been vandalized so many times, it's no sense me even telling you how many times they broke toilets in there and ripped them out. We could look into the possibility of leaving them open again, but if everyone who's responsible for the key locks them when they leave like they're supposed to, maybe that would work. Glass around the field. Town's not throwing glass there. We just sweep it up every day. Some of the problems you have up there are caused by some of the people who are sitting in the stands. Not all of them. They drop a bottle by accident. It breaks, and there's glass there. Kids walking around with a bottle. He drops it. But every single day we have a DPW truck there. Every single morning they empty the barrels. I have pictures of the barrels tipped over and garbage all over the place. Also, in addition to the dugouts being gated, we're going to have Ralph, if it didn't already do them, I'm not sure, we're going to have a spotlight put on each dugout so for police officers driving by, you could look in and see if anyone's in there. So I could only tell you that as far as the service to that field, it's every single day. They're there every single day. They empty the barrels. And they just police it. So every single day, the high school plays there, as you know, Little League plays there. So we're doing the best we can up there. But we do need a little self-policing up there, too. You know, nobody throws garbage around Disney World because nobody throws garbage around Disney World. You know, no one wants to be the first one to do it. So that's the same thing. Maybe if some people set examples, then we'd be okay. But I think as of now, we've done as much as we can there, and if another problem exists, we'll look into opening those bathroom facilities and see what happens.
Thank you, Chief. Go ahead.
Chief, we bought those cameras that we installed, the movable cameras that can, you can set up the timing on them. So we installed them in Stephen Only, we installed them around the playground equipment at Naughty. It seems to have...
Yeah, I guess we could look into that. I'd have to ask Ralph.
It seems to have dropped the vandalism.
Yeah, it helped up at Camp Meehan. I mean, we had a lot of problems up there. Now we have cameras. We have talking cameras up there.
Well, those are the ones that Stephen and I positioned the police department to buy.
Yeah,
And,
they're
they
up
seem
there.
to work.
They're portable.
And
They're
you know, as soon as you enter that area where it starts telling you that, you're being videoed.
So if Ralph's putting up spotlights, you might want to
Yeah,
And
we-
one
I
of those
could,
temporary-
I could suggest to Ralph that we look into that.
We did ask about a year and a half ago, you know, I don't think you were here, Councilman. We did ask for Evans Field because this has happened before with vandalism, and we requested to the chief at the time to put up cameras, and they said that they were looking into it. So maybe those portable cameras were what they looked into. They just didn't make their way to Evans Fields. They went to other fields. So
For some reason, I don't know what it is, Evans Field, and I was a councilman in 1973. In 1970, 71, 72, that was like a den of inequity. I mean, kids would ODing in there and everything. It was always a trouble spot for some reason. I don't know if it's because it's the location of it, but it's so wide open, you'd think they wouldn't go there. But in any case, we're doing the best we can. We're cleaning it up every single day. This was being done prior to the issue that we're discussing right now. So this is just another step we took.
Just to ask the question, and I know that you guys are doing everything that you can, DPW.
No, well, like I said, I went up there at 8 o'clock, and Kenny and his crew was up there when I went up there. I didn't call them to go up there, they were there.
Does the
In fact,
chief-
I called Council Brady right from the field, if you recall, and left you a message. You weren't answering, not that you weren't answering the phone. You weren't able to answer the phone, because I wanted to know I'm here, and the crew's right here now cleaning up. And thank you for calling me at 8:15 in the morning.
we know you're up. You told us you wake up at 5:30.
So, Chief,
For you.
is the police department actively keeping an eye on
Yeah, they
them?
do
I
what
mean,
they
if it's
call,
every
they
day-
do what they call D-runs there. You know, you you're a former police officer. You can't be in all places at all times. I don't know what to tell you, you know? You'd like to be on the scene of a crime every time it happens, but, you know, they do D-runs, they go up there, they make a pass, you know, they don't go in, they look around. If they don't see any activity,
When they see the cops, they take off, and the cops leave.
yeah, then they go on, and then they come back and leave. They figure you're on your way to the other side, you know? But I think, you know, we're doing the best we can, and if anybody has any suggestions, we're open to them.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, item number 8, block party. Town council to consider the approval, permission for residents of Plymouth Road to have a neighborhood block party on July 2nd of this year. Is anybody here from Plymouth Road? Can you just state your name for the record?
Gina Zani?
Just put that microphone in. Yeah, you can pull it out.
Good.
You say your name again, read it.
Gina Zani.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Zanni? We granted this last year.
Yeah, and it was very successful. It was a great community event. There was no trouble there. I was there for at least 6 hours myself with all the residents, and I'm definitely in support of having it there. And thank you for doing it, because it brings the camaraderie of that whole neighborhood together. So it was very nice and organized.
It's a nice event. A lot
Yep.
of fun for the neighbors, a lot of fun for the kids. so.
For the children, too. There were games for the children, and
And
it
that's
was
the reason we want to
right.
block the street off.
Okay, do I have a mission, do I have a motion to grant permission to the residents?
So moved.
second.
Motion been made by Councilman Warren, seconded by Councilman Canzaro. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Have fun.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 9, speeding issues. Council President Audiello requests discussion and vote concerning speeding issues throughout neighborhoods in the town of North Providence. If you follow our agendas, everyone's quite aware that I almost every month have something on an agenda about speeding, because I just get a lot of phone calls. And I think lately in the town it's becoming a major public safety concern. When I was first on the elected, I'd get about 3 to 4 calls a month about neighborhoods, you know, speeding. I would say now it's becoming close to 5 to 10 calls a day, and I'm just talking about District 3. Redwood Drive, Hillside Drive, Merchant, Oregon, Sampson, Atlantic Boulevard, Whipple Court, Swan Street, Don Ave, Plymouth, Salem, Andover, Manning, Pelham Parkway, High Service Ave, which is a state road, Bray Street, Swan Street, Chandler, Humbert, these are just some of the streets that I've listed down. I keep track of the phone calls I get. The administration is very responsive every time I call. I think it's really becoming a major issue in this town. If you look at the pattern, I put it on the agenda. I know Miss Ritchie's here. If you want to speak, you're more than welcome to. That's fine. Because I'm looking for guidance. I'm looking for ideas of what we can do. Is it more community policing? Is it the fact that the town has to purchase more speed bumps? I mean, I know some people don't want a speed bump on their street. I've tried that. So I'm going to entertain a motion to send a letter to the administration, to the chief of police, to just brainstorm, let's get together, get some ideas of how we can curb this issue, because it really is getting out of hand in town. So that's my motion.
Mr. President, do we still have that program, the police department in the neighborhoods and stuff like that?
Yes.
Yes, we do. Good. Do you want to speak?
So, last year when I got on the council, my biggest thing was the complaints that I received when I walked the district concerning the police department and speeding, and more of a police presence. So the chief created the NPAIR program, and significantly it has worked in my district. I wish there was more of it, and I understand that, you know, we can't be everywhere. I see the chief smiling. Well, hey, you are right. Most of the time, the people who call and complain about the speed are the ones who get caught. But the MPAIR program basically used forfeiture asset money to bring police officers on to create D-runs. And to me, during the budget hearings, that was the first question I asked the chief. You know, are we still doing it? How frequently are we doing it? And why aren't we doing it more? Because I get the same calls just in my district. So my opinion is our motion should more be, and I agree with you, that we should come together, but I think they should do them regularly. Pawtucket does them on, is that Silver Springs? Not Silver Spring Street, Powell Road.
Powell Road.
There is somebody there every day for 3 hours, and you don't speed on Powell Road. I mean, it's just a known fact. So, and I've asked the chief countless times to do it. No, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
You just gotta go up to the microphone. But just wait. Let's let Councilman DeStefanis finish his point. Good.
So I agree with your motion. I think it's a great thing that if we could all come together, but I think the biggest thing would be to ask the administration to have more officers available for the NPAIR program, and that we do it more frequently.
My name's Colin Dawson. I live at 70 Allen Avenue.
What is this street,
Speeding
sir?
has been a tremendous
Sir,
issue.
what was the name of the street? I'm sorry.
Allen Avenue. I've been in contact with Mrs. Catanzaro about this issue, several issues. My wife and I are now raising our grandson, who's 4, and as you know, children are here, and the next thing you know, they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. Running out in the street is one of those issues. And at the speed at which the cars travel down my street, because it's a cut-through from Woonasquatucket to Smith Street, is phenomenal. And I'm surprised I haven't ended up at the police station as a result of my actions in confronting these people the way they speed. When they come around the corner off of Woonasquatucket or come down off of Smith Street and they're doing 50, 60 miles an hour, I throw things at them, I turn the garden hose on them, I confront them. And I really am surprised the police haven't had come as a result. Mrs. Catanzaro came to my neighborhood about an abandoned building, and a car went by her that shook her car. Right? And I've been here since 1979, and throughout the years it's been an issue. I brought it up to the police, and they say, well, everybody knows somebody. We stop them and they get off because they know somebody. Why? How about speed bumps? Well, we can't put speed bumps because the emergency vehicles need Allen Avenue as a cut-through. So we don't want to put speed bumps up. So I'm going to ask you, what do we do? We need to do something. My neighbor has little children. There are little children riding their bicycles further up the street. And we can't have cars traveling up and down our street at 60 miles an hour. We just can't. Or I'm going to go to jail. I promise you. there is another subject I would like to talk to you about. Mrs. Catanzaro knows what that is, and I'll sit down, and when that subject comes up, I'll stand up again.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson.
Okay?
Does anybody have any other further comments?
Dino.
Go ahead. Oh, Chief.
I don't know who said that, but the police officer said that everybody knows someone and they let them go. I want, just for the record, the policy of the administration is to the police officers, through the chief, we've been at meetings, anyone who ever mentions the mayor's name or my name, you write them up. I just want that for the record.
So I'm going to entertain a motion to send a letter to the administration and the chief of police to look into adding more officers to the MPAIR program. Let's get together and brainstorm for some ideas how to curb the speeding issue, and also look for some state grant money to pay for additional police officers to go on the roads to do radar work, to create a situation like on Powell Road in Pawtucket, so people will know you cannot speed down this road. So that's my motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Giusti, seconded by Councilman DeStefanis. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 10, streetlights. Council President Audiello requests discussion and vote concerning potential savings for the town of North Providence by purchasing streetlights from National Grid. I put this item on the agenda after I was at a hearing, and I thought it would be a good idea. I know the mayor's working on it with a certain company, but I figured we'd put this in the Finance Committee, work the numbers, and see, what we could come up with. Pawtucket has put this in their budget for this year. Bristol and Barrington are looking into it, and Cranston's put an RFP out. Right now we have a lease with National Grid, and we pay for every light fixture. We would be purchasing only the standalone poles, not utility poles, and we'd be buying the actual light fixture that is attached. What this company would do would come in and assist the town in an audit of our lights. Because what we don't realize, how it was explained to me, is we're actually paying for a lot of lights that are broken and damaged, and that they don't even work. And we're paying for a lot of lights on state roads. There's also financing available for this through the state infrastructure fund that we could look into. And they're saying that our return on our investment could happen as fast as 5 to 7 years. And we'd also be eligible for a lot of rebates for National Grid for replacing our old lights with LED efficient lights. So I'm going to entertain a motion to put this item into the Finance Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilwoman Brady, seconded by Councilman Catanzaro. Is there any questions?
My only comment, Mr. President, if we do end up owning the lights and there's an accident with the pole and the lights that we own, we have to make sure that we're going to get reimbursed from the insurance company from the person who's hitting the pole with those lights. I know sometimes with the ornamental lights that we do have in Centerdale and in Maryville, that doesn't happen, and then we're not repairing them. So if we're owning them, we have to make sure that the person who is hitting the light, we go after their insurance company, and they are responsible for fixing it too, or that would just be very costly. So I think it's a good idea as long as we're doing all of that together too to own it.
Big problem though, Counselor, is that in some cases, we don't know who hit the pole,
Right.
especially the fancy ones.
Well,
They hit them, knock them down, and then take off.
Well, if it's an accident,
Yeah.
like if there's a report.
The interesting thing that I learned about this company that I had spoke to was that they have a maintenance. A lot of these companies don't have maintenances. It's just like once the town purchases the poles, we're responsible for them. This company handles all the maintenance. So we don't have bucket trucks that can handle this stuff. So they will come out and do that stuff.
Okay.
So I will have them come to the Finance Committee and speak, and we'll get more information. This is just to throw it out there to kind of move it along.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Oh, I just did want to say, I really think it's a great idea to be moving in the direction of energy efficiency as well. So thank you for
Thank you.
introducing that.
Chief? I did, yeah.
Yeah, did he tell you we've been negotiating with a company for about a year now about that?
I know it's a work in progress, yeah.
All right, it's, we agree with you, it's a good deal.
Yeah, we'll see what we can
Regardless who
come
it
up
is.
with.
As far as the poles being taken down, 90% of those poles are taken down at night. And no one knows who, you know, they take off. When we know who does take them down by accident, we do collect from the insurance company. I think we collect more often than not, but when it happens like on a Friday night, Saturday night, most of the time.
Intoxicated drivers.
Right.
Okay, item number 11, tax exemption for disabled veterans disabled by military service. Councilman Warren requests discussion and vote on a real estate tax break on a resident-owned and occupied by a disabled veteran who is disabled by military service. This item was continued from the May meeting. Councilman Warren?
Mr. President, as you know, before the ordinance committee now, we have a proposed, we're trying to come up with an ordinance for POWs and giving them a tax break. And April meeting, I was met by a disabled veteran from the VFW who brought my attention to this, which it did slip the first time. I gotta be honest, I didn't think about the disabled veterans, which are just as equally important as the POWs. And the tax break for them, some who are totally disabled and some are partially disabled where they can't work, this would be a real good place to give them a break. So I'd like to make a motion to pass this over to ordinance committee.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilwoman Brady, seconded by Councilman Viola. Councilman Juicy, you say you have this and
I
you're working on
I
it?
think I already got this in the ordinance, I've been working on it. Because we had some veterans come before.
Because the original one that I put in didn't have disabled veterans, it
No,
just
but
had the POWs.
last month, we had the disabled veterans.
Oh, I thought this was
Come
continued from
before
the
us.
May meeting. Yeah. But I didn't know, well, I wasn't here at the May meeting,
Yeah.
so I didn't know this was addressed.
And I've already talked to the gentleman that came and spoke here, and we discussed.
Yeah, that's the gentleman I met in the April meeting.
I just want to thank Councilman Warren for putting this on the agenda. This is a great idea, and I fully support it.
I think what's in ordinance, Mr. President, the guy who was in front of us, Jake, last month, was looking for 100% exemption for disabled veterans,
Fully
correct?
disabled.
Fully, excuse
Totally.
me, 100% disabled,
Yeah.
right, for a full exemption.
Yeah.
Is that the same thing just for
Yeah.
100% disabled, Councilman?
I'd even consider 50% because some of these people
Right
that are
now,
50%
we've got 80.
can't work.
We've got eight totally disabled veterans living in North Providence. But the
Well,
big problem.
800% disabled.
Huh?
800% disabled.
Correct.
Maybe.
Fully disabled.
Yeah, they're fully.
They're on 100%
100%
disability,
disabled.
but,
There's
excuse
8 of them.
me, Mr. President,
Yeah. Let me-
just, oh, I'm sorry.
And the other thing was that the big problem is, how do you, and Cranston's running into this problem right now. They've got people moving in to the city and they're getting huge numbers. How do you control that? I mean, you have them have to live here for so many years, you know what I'm saying? That's stuff we gotta look into.
We
Sure.
discussed that out.
And then there's the fraud aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll discuss all this in ordinance. So a motion's been made by Councilwoman,
I
Councilwoman
second.
Brady, seconded by Councilman Viola. Any further discussion?
I just did want a point of clarification, Councilman Warren, on your item. Is it my understanding that the disabled veteran who you're looking for the tax exemption for was possibly less than 100% disabled?
Yes.
Okay, that's why I thought it was a separate
Mine was just
issue
wasn't 100%.
from the 8 veterans who are 100% disabled. Okay, thank
Because
you.
like I was saying, somebody who's 50% cannot hold sometimes gainful employment.
Exactly, so
Right.
there is a difference between the two requests. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. I need to go back to item number 10 and just take a vote. I'd like to entertain a motion to send the National Grid project to the Finance Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Catanzaro, seconded by Councilman DeStefanis. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 12, status on 1 Plimpton and 1835 Middle Spring Avenue. Councilwoman Catanzaro requests discussion and vote on the status of a property designated as Assessors Plat 22A, lots 332 and 336, further designated as 1 Plimpton Street and 1825 Middle Spring Avenue. Purchase and sales agreement. This item was continued from the May meeting. Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mr. President. If I'm correct to say the purchase and sales agreement has not been signed, do you know? It has not been signed? Okay, this in conjunction with number 13, I don't know if you want to read number 13 too.
I'll read item number 13 as well. We'll
Okay.
put them together. Item number 13, executive session minutes. Councilwoman Catanzaro requests discussion and vote on unsealing the executive session minutes from meetings of January 5th and February 2nd, 2016. This item was continued from the May meeting. Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mr. President. The reason I put this on the agenda is back in January, we had an executive session where we were asked to purchase land. And the vote that was taken in that meeting was actually a sealed vote. And a week after that vote, the mayor put in the newspaper how a couple of the council people voted. And if it's a sealed vote, you're supposed to adhere to the guidelines of a sealed meeting. So I figured since I can't talk about why I voted no, which I would like the public to know why I voted no, these minutes should be unsealed. So it would be very transparent as to what happened in that meeting, what was said in the meeting, in the purchase of that property. We haven't signed the purchase and sales agreement, and the council president said he would feel more comfortable, and I'm in agreement with him, that the purchase and sales agreement be signed before we unseal those minutes. We don't have a meeting next month, so I'd like to make a motion that we unseal the minutes after the purchase and sales agreement is signed, even if it's, in a week or 2 weeks, just at when that is signed, those minutes can be available for public viewing. So I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion's been made by Councilman Catanzaro. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Warren. Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
There's no, for the record, 1 nay. Okay, item number 14, rat issues. Councilwoman Catanzaro requests discussion and vote on the rat issues in the Lymansville neighborhood, 3 Meadowview Drive and Hillside Apartments. Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mr. President. I had put this item on the agenda last month, almost as a blanket for the Lymansville neighborhood. It made a headline in the Valley Breeze because I had called the neighborhood, it was infested. My phone rings off the hook constantly. We have residents that have had their dogs die, and the veterinarian has said it's through leptospirosis, which is a disease a dog gets through their nose from the urine and the feces of the rats in their yard. So there's 3 documented cases. I've had several calls of rats out during the daytime. I have pictures of people on details in the Monasquatucket area in the neighborhoods with rats all over, people skipping through rats. Also, rats living in people's cars, eating the wires. And I also have a resident here who has called me several times, more than I can even know, in multiple emails, where she's bound to her home. The children can't go out and play because of the infestation of rats. And as of last night, her dog caught a rat, and the dog is bound to the basement of her home because she does not want the dog to be near the children right now, not knowing if any disease or whatever the dog after he ate it. Not to mention after the dog kills the rat, what is the homeowner supposed to do with it? The mayor went on Channel 10 and he said he denies that there's a rat infestation. And I think as a council, we need to come to an agreement to know that the residents come first. And if they're telling us they're having a rat issue, it's not just because their garbage can is not covered. It's not just because there's a hole in their garbage can. It was an infestation into the neighborhood where our residents live. And we need to take steps. We need to help our residents. We need to have an immediate eradication plan in place to go out to the residents. I found out today that our DPW, which has posted on the website that we offer pellets when our residents call to help them with the rat problem. This program doesn't exist, but we advertise for it on our town website. They said that the program hasn't been around for several years. I don't know what we can do, but I think the first thing to do is to admit that we do have a rodent issue. And I know there's some residents here tonight that have reached out to me more than 10 times because it's that bad. And I'd like this council to hear from the residents and then come together collectively with a plan to help the residents who are in need. These are just basic health and safety concerns that our residents have. And we would hate to see any more animals die or even it be contracted to humans. So, Mr. President, if you would allow some of the residents to speak on this, I would appreciate it.
Go ahead. You go with the mic, sir.
I never thought I'd be doing this, but in 1979, I moved to North Providence, Allen Avenue, and it was then that I discovered I had rodents living in my neighborhood. That was no big deal. I began tracking them and removing them. And at various times over this period, we've had large amounts of rats, especially when they were renovating the Allendale condo mill into condos. We had a lot of rats move in, and then they straightened that out. But this particular year, going back to last June, I have captured 82 rats. My dog has killed 4. I don't want my dog killing rats, to be quite honest with you, with the diseases that she can transmit to my grandson, for example. But I think 82 rats is a little bit over the top. And I'm sick and tired of it, to be quite honest with you. And I'd like something done. Now, I'm retired. I take my dog for walks. And come dusk through dawn is when you'll see the bulk of the rats out in the neighborhood. And you can walk any of the side streets, go by any Allendale condos, the restaurants, anywhere where there's a dumpster, and you'll find rats scurrying about, especially on trash night when the trash barrels are out. The rats are out and about. And then we have those people that want to feed the wild feral cats, and they put the cat food out there, and I walk by her driveway, and I see rats, possums, raccoons, foxes, coyotes, feeding out of these cat food cans. And then she leaves her garage door open for the cats to have a place to stay. And then you got the North Providence Housing Project behind my house, and they throw food out to feed the animals. I don't know what animals they think they're feeding, but they're feeding rats. And then there's through my neighborhood, there's a stream that has been piped in when they developed the neighborhood, and it's an underground stream that travels through a pipe. Well, I found out that my neighbor behind me and the person I bought the house from punched a hole in the pipe. This pipe goes out to the Wonoskatucket River. So consequently, the rats come up the pipe, come out the hole, and everybody's got sheds on blocks. We all had gardens. I no longer garden. I no longer compost. There's a lot of things I don't do anymore. I thought I was doing a good job of composting and eliminating stuff going into the landfill, but that was proving to be a place for the rats to hide and raise their families. But I have a shed that's on blocks, and that's not a good thing either. So the rat issue is alive and well here in North Providence. I never had that in Pawtucket. I grew up in the Darlington section of Pawtucket. Never had that, but I got it now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. President, can I ask him a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Excuse me, sir. So, you stated that this problem has occurred since June of 2015.
I started counting last June because of the amount of rats that I was capturing. I had to have a hard trap that I set out there, and I try not to set it up at night because I also catch skunks, and I'd rather not catch a skunk.
So, what do you said you walk around the neighborhood.
With my dog, I take her for walks.
What do you
at night.
attribute the the growth of infestation to occur from?
Well, the infestation is due in part to habitat, where they're going to live, food, if they have a food supply. And if you go over to the Allendale condos, they have 2 dumpsters that's fenced in, and in a lot of cases, those dumpsters are full. And they have bags of trash sitting alongside the dumpster. And when I walk my dog over, because there's a bridge that crosses over the Woonasquatucket, and I will cross over, and there's a path that runs along the Woonasquatucket. Every time I go over there, there's rats scurrying here, there, and everywhere. And my dog goes crazy. She wants to go get them. She's a rat. She's a soft-coated Wheaten Terrier, and she loves that stuff. But I don't want her to do that.
And then, thank you. And then, Chief, the pipe that he described.
Well, there's definitely a pipe.
So can we plug?
There is. There used to be a screen, and the pipe was put in there because we got flooded out by it. Right. Or maybe not you. Right. This goes back before. That goes back to when I was alive.
Okay, so.
When I was a lot younger.
Excuse me.
I was on the council in the 70s.
So can we plug the pipe that he's stating his neighbor banged into?
That was the question I wanted to ask. Yeah, he's deceased, but they had pools, and I guess they were discharging the pools into the pipe. And into the Woonasquatucket River. No, it's not, but there is a hole there. Is it a cement pipe or steel pipe? I think it's a cement pipe. The first thing we should do is sit in that pipe. And when these neighbors are through out there. Sure. Oh, no, we do have a roof problem, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson.
I spoke with, I called A&D Pest Control, because I know they do the work for the town. And I just asked him what was going on, because I represent District 3 as well. I get a lot of phone calls. He said the town's been proactive. However, every time they've been out, it's kind of like Mr. Dawson just explained. I think he actually mentioned your name, Councilman.
I toured a neighborhood with him.
Yeah, a woman was feeding the rats out of her window. I think it's almost becoming more of a policing issue at this point. They also said that, we got to stay on top of a lot of these condos to have their dumpsters removed more than they are now, possibly 3 to 4 times a week, because as you stated, the dumpsters being filled is a major issue. And the other thing that they were concerned about that they did mention is if they use the rat poison and it does possibly hurt a little kid or an animal, is the town liable? So that's a tough issue. We need to figure out, plan and how to work with this. So, did you want to say something?
I'm not sure, though.
Let me explain what we do when we have a rat issue, first of all. As a lady said to me, I don't call them rats, I call them rodents. Well, whatever you call them, nobody wants them. When we get a call because there's a rodent or rat issue, first thing we do is notify the minimum housing inspector. The minimum housing inspector goes out and he tours the area, he takes a little tour of the area, because rats only go where there's a food supply. Now, you might have rodents in your yard, but you might not be the cause of the rodents. It might be your neighbor 2 houses down or 3 houses down. The A&D tells me, I'm becoming an expert on rodents, by the way, that rats will travel 150 feet in either direction for food. Now, you just might have a shed in your yard, and it's a nice, comfortable spot for them to nest, but that's not where they're eating. They're going to the food, and they come back, get out of the weather, and do whatever they do. Most of the time, it's just multiplying, by the way. But in any case, so we send the minimum housing inspector out there. And 90% of the time, he would find what the problem is. Someone might have a trash can that's rotted on the bottom. He might have a dumpster that's not being emptied enough. People are throwing trash that's falling the side of the dumpster. When we get them to empty the dumpsters more often. Councilman Fiola, we got a call from, what was the street down there? Bourne Avenue?
Bourne Avenue.
Bourne Avenue, that area. I called the minimum housing inspector, and he goes down, he calls me back. He says, Dick, this area is clean. I said, it's clean. I said, there's rats. They you know, the people that were calling, I knew some of them. If they said there was rodents, then there was rodents. So we call A&D. Now, keep in mind, we use A&D, but we don't use him to offer that service to residents. I mean, it would be pretty prohibitive. But we use him to look around and see give us his professional opinion. So he goes there, about an hour later, he calls me back and says, Dick, this area is clean. Until we discover, a little later, and Councilman Fiola was there, the lady is feeding the rats.
Those are religious reasons.
For religious reasons. I
Yeah,
won't
it
get
was
into
for
that,
religious
it's too touchy a subject. But she's feeding the rats. Did the mayor go there? You were there? See?
Absolutely.
And I was on the other end of the phone saying, you're telling me it's clean? They're telling me there's rats all over the place. So I think we eliminated that situation. So 90% of the time we'll find out what it is. It's dumpsters. It's people who are feeding the birds. Yeah, one woman, I think it was on the end of Merchant Street, she used to complain about rats. We went in the yard. She had a half a pizza on the backyard, 2 loaves of bread. She said, I feed the birds. I said, well, unless you got a flock of eagles flying over your house, you're leaving a lot for the rats. So, and just last week, I had a woman from one of these streets off Woonasquatucket Avenue called about rats. So I asked her the usual questions: are the dumpsters, are there any dumpsters there? The trash, disposed of properly? Are you feeding birds? Do you have birds, like feeders where the seeds go underground? She said, no. I said, how about dogs? Do you have any dogs in the neighborhood? Because they love dog waste, rats. She said, oh, yes, we all have dogs. She said, I have a dog. I said, oh, good. What kind of a dog do you have? She said, I have a St. Bernard. Okay. I said, do you pick up after, She said, oh, definitely. She said, every Saturday I pick it up. I said, well, you might as well get a horse. If you're only cleaning the waste once a week and you got a St. Bernard, if he's going twice a day, that's like a buffet for the rats. So I think they cleaned that up and we didn't get any more calls there. And her neighbors all had dogs too. So those are the kind of problems we have. We're open to any suggestions. But by the way, we do not give rat pellets out any longer. It's been a
Then we need
long.
to take it off the
We
website.
should-
Yeah, well, I didn't even know it was on the
If
website. I'll be
I'm looking
truthful
at
with
it
you.
now, because that exposes the town. to
That
liability.
was stopped years ago because the danger of killing dogs. God forbid a kid picks it up. So we've stopped doing that years ago. So, but we're open to any suggestions. Listen, the town doesn't cause rats. People cause rats. And it's not that they want to. Nobody wants to live with rats, but I might say on 10 or 12 occasions where the building inspector went, they said, oh, how's your trash can? It is okay. He turns it over and half of the bottom is gone, So, But we're open to any suggestions. We'll be happy to try anything we can.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I know there's a couple other residents here, too.
Okay, if anyone else would like to speak on this issue, you're more than welcome to come up. Just please state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Nick Lombardi, live on Damien Court. We have two other residents or homes on Damien Court that are here tonight. And I don't know what constitutes an infestation, but we've gone from 0 to probably a dozen rats in the last month on our street and our backyards. On behalf of my dog Brady, he's killed 4 in a matter of a couple of weeks. And some of the owners have paid hundreds of dollars to have a company come in and put some traps down. So we're not at the 82 that gentleman's talking about, but we're going from 0 to way too many very, very quickly. So I don't have a beef with anyone. I just want to let it be on record that Damien Court is definitely having an issue. There are no dumpsters. There are no multi-family complexes that would cause dumpsters to be in the area, but there are certainly way too many rats. We've been there since '88. I've never had a rat in my yard. And like I said, we've had like over a dozen in 4 or 5 weeks.
Yep.
Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilman.
If you get an opportunity, and this is only through experience because we had a problem about 7 or 8 years ago in that Allen Avenue area again. We pretty much straightened it out, but it's back again. If you get an opportunity, take that 150-foot radius around your house and take a walk and just go look in the backyards and stuff like that if you can.
Okay.
When we did that, we found one woman was throwing her raw garbage out the second-story window in the backyard, and that's where the rats were feeding. So you don't know what's going on in somebody's backyard, you know what I'm saying? That's, because they only come if there's food.
Right.
If there's no food, they're not around.
Understood.
So if you get the opportunity to go for a walk with your dog or whatever, you know, just
Okay. Thank you.
keep an eye out, you know?
Okay.
Bird feeders are another prime source for food.
Understood. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak?
Hi, my name is Bev Jesuino. Just for the record as well, I do realize that what we're talking about the food sources being available to them is pretty much exasperating the problem. I believe that's the case. I own a commercial building with a 2-yard dumpster that we have removed weekly. I'm always making sure that the cover is tight and locked. I'm also making sure that the rodents are not chewing through the plastic covers, which they do very often. And as soon as I see any amount of chewing, I'm having to change them. And I have to say that I'm doing a lot of that regularly. I'm also putting out 6 bait stations that I keep filled, sometimes more than once weekly. They're being completely emptied. I watch my tenants, which I own a residential property as well, and I'm watching my tenants to make sure they're keeping their trash cans covered. I think a lot of the issue is coming from the houses being so close together. Within that 150 radius, you've got people doing all sorts of things in their yards and with their trash. So unless the town gets into code enforcement or even code regulations for these folks, especially the out-of-town landlords who aren't watching their properties, I see trash can covers on the ground all the time in my neighborhood. I don't feel comfortable walking in other people's backyards, but I can tell you from what I see from the street that a lot of the, especially absentee landlords, tenants are not paying close attention to trash. And we've got a ton of that off Woonasquatucket Avenue where the river is and where the rats seem to feel most comfortable. So I think a lot of this is going to have to do with code enforcement, because even those of us that are diligent, there are probably 10 others that aren't. And someone's got to be watching out for those people. Someone's got to be enforcing codes for those people. So
Thank you. Thank you for going
Thank you.
on.
Thank you. I think, Mr. President, everything that we've heard is contributed to the problem. And it's clear that there's a problem, and it's clear that it can be blamed on a lot of different avenues, whether it's trash cans, whether it's the the initial, like the mill you said originally, something not abated, the initial influx of rats just being in the neighborhood. Damien Court never had rats. Now they do. They came from somewhere. And I know that neighborhood up there. It's a very clean, well-kept neighborhood. So we just need to find a way to assist. The blame could be on a lot of different things. Bev, I agree with you. Yes, it's an enforcement issue. But right now, it's a problem. So who's ever blamed for it, that's behind us. We need to move forward and take care of the problem to help. And then if it's educating residents and going into the neighborhoods and saying, that is causing it, we just spent money to eradicate that. You know, it's a plan. It's everyone together making it safe. And that's what this is. So, I mean, I don't know if any other residents are here that want to speak, but I mean, I'll make a motion after they're all done to see. Do you want to say anything, Sheena?
Okay, you want to make your motion?
I think
Oh,
Shayla
I'm
just
sorry.
has-
Good.
Hi, I'm Shayla Tordo. I'm from Meadow Avenue, the home that you guys were speaking about earlier. Over the last few months.
You just
the
state-
Would you
your
just
name
speak?
again?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry,
thanks.
can you, is that better? Okay. Shayla Tordo. Yep, Tuorto. So I'm from Meadow Avenue, and the rats over the last few months have gotten much worse. Unfortunately, we can't spend a lot of time outside. My daughter can't play on her swings. Even if we don't see a rat, she really can't play outside because we don't know what rat droppings are out there. We did find rat droppings as close to our home as on our deck. We don't want to use the grill. We don't want her to play in her playhouse. Yesterday, my dog was bit again by a rat. That's a costly vet visit, $400 every time for booster shots for rabies and leptospirosis. Also, my dog has to be quarantined after that time to make sure that she doesn't transmit any diseases to my daughter. So, unfortunately, we're in the house all the time. If we want to go outside and play, we have to go to the park.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shayla also sent pictures. I believe I sent them in everyone's packet. There's another issue also, which is she abuts the property of Hillside, and the conditions of that area are just deplorable. And they went out there. Minimum housing did go out, and the nests that are under there are just more than words can even say. So, like I said, I'll say it again, it's a combination of everything, and we need help.
It's also inexpensive to, we
You just state your name?
Please?
Just state your name, please.
I'm Donna Castellone, and I'm also on Damien Court. We never had a problem before. This past year, we have had a problem. I have photos to show, and I also have a bill that I hired a private company to come out and take care of the problem. This is something that I'm going to have to keep up to, to take care of it so that it's not in my yard. But it's going to leave my yard, and it's going to go into other people's yard. So are we all to hire our own private contractors to take care of this? I mean, there should be some type of reimbursement or some type of credit to help with this expense. And, just some of us can do it. We all need to do something. So.
I agree. If you would like to submit that bill, I feel that the town has some responsibility, especially in that area. If you would like to submit it to the clerk with an explanation of what you told us tonight, and then the council will review it, because I really do feel it's a collaborative effort.
Right, and I already dished out about $500 for this. Now, in order to keep it, it's going to cost, I believe it's $100 every other month. So, am I going to get rid of these boxes? No, because I'm afraid that they'll come back. Right. And I want to say, I do have a dog. My husband is out every day picking up dog waste. We don't have a bird feeder. Our garbage cans are covered. I put everything in the garbage disposal, and very rarely is there any kind of food out in my garbages. These rats are making holes in my yard, and that's how we found them. And we put a webcam out at night, and that's how we found that it wasn't a squirrel or a rabbit, it was rats.
Thank you.
I didn't hear me. What'd you put out at night?
A webcam, so any type of movement, it will take a photo, so I do have photos. So after this, just give it to,
She'll get them for you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
all right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Councilman, do you want to make
Yes.
a motion?
I'd like to make a motion for the administration to do an emergency procurement of an outside company if necessary to assist or do the eradication. It doesn't appear that, we can handle what's going on here in the community. So I'd like to make that motion. A motion for the administration to do an emergency procurement of an outside company if necessary to assist or do the eradication.
Okay, a motion's been made by Councilwoman Catanzaro. Do I have a second?
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Councilman.
We already have that in place. You call the mayor's office and they contact A&D.
No, we don't. A&D does not work for the town. A&D works, and their contract is for the buildings in the town. We don't have an eradication program.
No, I went with them on Bourne Avenue to the residents.
Right, they do that as a case by case. He'll go. I work right next to Anthony in my building. So if I call Anthony and say, hey, could you do me a favor and go to someone's house? They go to someone's house to look, but that's not an eradication program. We need an actual program and a plan. We need to assist the residents with this initial problem. So we're not, right now, we don't have the procurement to say to A&D, hey, come in and go through the neighborhoods and put out bait traps. Cranston City, the city of Cranston had this problem years ago, and the mayor took action. He went, they helped. It was in the Auburn area and the stadium area, and it was for all the same reasons. There were a lot of different things going on, dogs, cans, but they went in and they assisted, and the problem has seized itself. We need to do that. I don't think residents would be here telling us month after month in the calls that we're getting, and we're not doing anything. So that's my motion. We need to have that assistance. So that's my motion.
Okay, a motion's been made by Councilman Catanzaro. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Warren. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Hey,
I'd like to make a second motion also, Mr. President.
Before you do that, can we do one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just gotta ask a question.
Yes.
Chief, when your office gets calls, whether it's from council people who represent that district or the residents, inspection and standing, I'm assuming, is going up, correct? Okay. Is there a way that we can take their reaction, their response, and tie it in what Councilman Giusti said earlier, which is to send inspection and standards out, maybe, accompany them with other inspectors, maybe people from the police department, and canvass that area for 150 square feet?
Well,
I mean, I'm just,
let me just,
you're trying to hire a company, I'm trying to figure out,
let me just say this.
But we're at a point now, it's past that. We can look 150 feet away from Mrs. Castellone's house, and she could come back and tell us and say, gee, nobody has any dog waste. We're past that. It's an infestation. It's a neighborhood.
and I understand that,
So what
Kristen,
are we going
and-
to
and-
do
and
about
I
it?
understand that, and what I'm trying to say is, if you were to let me finish, is maybe we need to start educating the neighborhood of those people who have their dog waste, people who are throwing trash out.
In
people who
conjunction with
aren't
an
putting their lids
eradication
on.
plan.
Okay, well, I didn't say, if you just made a motion, I agreed with you. So what I'm
So
saying
that's what
is,
we have
on
to do.
top of that, maybe we need to start educating the residents in the community as to what's going on.
That was my second motion, to have the minimum housing. We need to send this to minimum housing
If
and
you would've
have
let me
them
finish,
do
One at a
that.
time, one
I
at a
would've
time.
said that.
One
So
at a time.
basically, that's where I was going, but now
You
that
finished,
we all
go ahead.
know you're going there, I'll let you make the motion.
The second motion would be to send notification to minimum housing of all the areas we're asking him, them, however many people we have in minimum housing, which I think is a half part-time person, to go out to these areas with the dumpsters in the neighborhood, the absentee landlords that aren't being accountable for the owners, the renters of the home. We need them in conjunction. So I'd like to make a motion to send minimum housing a letter as well.
Okay, motion's been made by Councilman Catanzaro. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Brady. Any comments?
I have another motion.
All right, let me just get this one out of the way. I just would like to make one statement for the record. We're talking about rats. This is a serious issue. Let's not let this get political. This is absurd that we're arguing. I talked to A&D Press Control for 1 hour on the phone today. I think everyone wants to get this issue resolved. No matter who you are, everyone wants to get this issue resolved. Let's not let it get political over who's not doing it, who's doing what. It needs to get resolved. That's the bottom line. So a motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Councilman, did you want to add?
I just wanted to add to make a motion to send a communication to the webmaster, is it Pilkington?
Pilkington.
To remove that verbiage on the town's website.
Okay, motion's been...
For rat bait pellets, we don't do that.
Motion's been made by Councilman Fiola. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Warren. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? You guys have it. Chief, did you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to make a couple of things clear. You're the council, you're the legislative body, you pass any laws you want, but be aware that what's the liability of the town if they're not doing anything? How about if someone's infested with ants because it's coming off a tree and that's on the sidewalk? It's gone in their house. We're going to stop paying for that? So, listen, whatever you do is fine. I'm not an elected official. I just do as I'm told. But what's the liability to the town? That's all I want to know. What's their liability? Where are they causing this problem?
Well, that was discussed
The other
today.
thing I want to say is how difficult it is for the minimum housing inspector. They can't go walking through someone's yard. That's trespass. They can't just go walking through someone's yard and checking trash cans. We've been throwing out a number of properties. Get off my property. So what are you going to do?
So, Chief, I gotta ask you a question. If minimum housing goes to whatever street, whatever house, it's fenced in, the neighbors around it say all the rats are going in and out of the guy's.
Yeah, we try to, usually the person who calls lets you in the yard. And then you could look at one yard, you could look in the other yard, but you can't just go.
What happens when you get somebody hard-nosed that says, get off my property?
Excuse me?
What happens when you get somebody that's playing hardball and says, get off my property?
You get off the property. Now, if we think that they're the cause, we stick at the house. But we stick at the house, give them 7 days to clean up the problem. But how do we know if the problem's there? See, that's the thing. It's a little more difficult than have the minimum housing inspector go out there. He can go out and walk in everyone's yard. If it was okay, they could walk through every single yard. Sometimes they'll get a call and they'll go to, let's say it's 15 houses they want to look at. They might get a chance to look at 4 or 5, maybe 6. If someone's home, they'll usually let you go in. If you knock on the door and they know who you are. But unfortunately, during the day, it's that. But that's the only thing I say.
Mr. President.
Wait, hold on. One second. Councilman Juicy.
Unfortunately, what's happening is that the food source right now is going to become at its greatest because we've got everybody with gardens, we've got our fruit trees blooming, we've got, and believe me when I tell you, the biggest problem in the whole thing is the food source. You get rid of the food source and the rats are gone. They'll start eating each other, but that's the big problem.
What they do is they'll move to the next food source.
Once you find the food source, you can hire everybody in the world for this, right? But if they don't find the food source, the rats are not going to go away.
Councilman, do you want to have a final comment? Come up. Go ahead, you first.
I just wanted to say, I looked up Providence, and they do have a program. It's on their website for DPW So maybe we can submit this with the letter to the administration, because it says on there, I need help with a rat problem outside of my home. How do I get help? So at least if we put awareness on the website, they offer baiting and they have signed forms and so forth. So if we can send this along with it, then that can maybe be part of the continued plan.
Okay.
Thank
Did you want to add a comment, sir? Just come up to the microphone.
Again, Nick Lombardi. So, Mayor, I'm a fan. This is not political in any way, but the town needs to step up here. It's not a matter of who's liable. There's been food sources. Again, with all due respect, sir, we've had a garden in our house since 1988. We've had fruit trees since the town's been around since long before 1988. We've never had rats. We never had a rat. And now we have, for me, it's an infestation because I don't want to go in my yard. I don't want to go in my pool. I don't want to hang out in my yard. And at some point, the town needs to get together and recognize, as we have been, that this is not political and it's not us versus them, but something needs to be done because this isn't Providence.
One rat, you gotta understand something, one rat comes in your neighborhood. Every 28 days, they have a litter. Non-stop.
I understand.
No,
that.
but
I
I'm
get
just
that.
saying, and if there's a food source, they'll keep having these litters.
Right, but why? But there has to be a way to remedy this. Otherwise, then we're just going to be taken over by rats, and then residents like me are going to say, you know what, I can't live in this town anymore. I need to move because I don't want to live amongst rats everywhere.
Yeah,
That's
but
not
once-
why I'm in this town. But I will move because honestly, it's very uncomfortable. You're sitting in your yard, and my dog is chasing a rat. That's just very disconcerting.
I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Dan, right across from Gary.
I'm very familiar with
I know you are.
and it's a very clean area.
But it's just, something's got to be done. That's all I'm saying. It shouldn't be.
No, the question is, what we have to do is find the source of the rats that are going into your yard. Because if you don't eliminate the food supply, I don't care how much poison you put out, you can't kill them all. And as long as the food supply is still there, now somewhere in your neighborhood, there's a food supply. It might not even be in Damien Park. It could be outside Damien Park, you know? And they might be nesting in your yard. You might not be the cause. I said that in the beginning. And by the way, you like I said, that we're willing to do anything we have to do to remedy this.
What I would like to see
But
done,
if you don't get rid of the food source,
sir, what I would like to see done is I'd like to see the town have the ability to go into everybody's backyard, right? You know, I'd love to see the town have the ability to go in everybody's backyard and let's find out what's going on. Let's find out. No, it's not gonna happen. That's the problem, you know, because I'm not saying you, but you're gonna say, no, you're not coming in my backyard, you know what I mean?
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President?
Yep.
On this item, may I make a motion?
Sure.
I make a motion that we send a letter, an informational letter to the residents who are within the boundaries, the certain tracts that are experiencing the infestation of rats, so that all of the residents will be aware of what measures to take, who to contact, put that in writing to them in the form of a letter.
Maybe add to that if our inspectors come around, we'd like to have you give permission for them to go in the.
And to ask them to show the courtesy to the inspectors of allowing them to look in their outside areas. Thank you.
Okay, a motion's been made by Councilman Brady. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman DeStefanis. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 15, drainage issues. Councilwoman Canzaro requests discussion and vote on drainage issues on Ferncrest Boulevard.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ferncrest Boulevard, I know we have an email. Give me 1 second to find it. I received a call the other day, actually it was on Memorial Day, or maybe the day before, from the last house on the right at the end of Ferncrest. There are pictures attached with the email showing the flooding that is going through the yard. They did say they spoke with Chief Forza. At that time, he hadn't gotten back with them, but I think since then, the chief may have gone out there with DPW. What the resident is asking for is that area possibly to be dredged. It seems every time it rains, any dirt comes out of, whether it's the yards, debris from the street, it just runs down and it stops and it builds a wall, which abuts Rhode Island College's property. The same thing happens with the snow removal. They push the snow up against that fence, and all the dirt when they're plowing, it all abuts, and it's caused the fence to be knocked down. The snow is knocked down the fence, and it's just in deplorable condition at the end of Ferncrest. So what I would like to do is send a letter to DPW, CCing the administration, because I do know Chief Forza has addressed it, letting them know that the resident has reached out to the council, asking for relief and help down at that area because of the drainage issues. I'd also like to send that same letter, CCing to Rhode Island College, because that fence may be Rhode Island College's fence. I'm not sure.
Rhode Island College agreed to let us open that fence.
So we can take it down?
So they'll open the fence so when the street can be plowed, and that will alleviate that freezing over. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Okay.
I called on this issue. Thank you.
Bill.
I was down there, in fact, I was down there 3 times, and he never was home. So the last time I went there, I left that probably the same email you have in your hands. I was there with Mike Talercio and Bernie Salvatore. The issue is exactly what you said. It's a dead-end street, they plow snow to the end of the street. When you plow snow, whatever debris in the snow goes in there. Took the fence down. This is the plan. Bernie Salvatore spoke with Bill the other day. I left a note and my card in his mailbox. I don't know whether it was last week, Thursday or Friday. Left him a note in his mailbox. Our plan is to, number one, if you look at the road, if you've been there.
Yes.
It goes like this.
Yes.
So the water's gonna go right into his yard. So somewhere along the line, that has to be taken care of. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna replace the fence, and they're gonna have a gate there, so that during the winter, when they're plowing, they'll open the gates. Then they could plow without taking the fence down, number one, and they'll be able to plow further back. They're gonna build some kind of a trench that will take the water from the street, divert it from his yard. It's gonna be a little difficult because like the whole road is off like this, like I said, if you've seen it. He does have an issue there, but if you look, when they built that house, not when he didn't build the house, it's a little too low in the ground, so naturally today they would have probably built it up 2 or 3 feet higher than that and brought the area a lot, maybe 2 feet high, 18 inches high.
So the college will do that, they said, because I don't.
No, we're all
we'll
set.
send
We're
a letter.
gonna replace the fence
Okay.
where it's broken, and we're gonna replace it with gates though. So we could open the gates during the winter, so we could plow further back.
Okay,
And that
great.
will allow the water to drain right into that area, so. That's the plan. We've been in touch with him. I never spoke to him personally. I spoke to him on the phone a couple of times. Bernie Salvatore spoke to him. I was there with Mike, and there's a plan for that correction of that property.
Excellent, thank you.
It's a unique situation in any case.
Okay, you all set?
Yeah, thank you for calling the college, too.
Item number 16, public comment. Councilwoman Catanzaro requests discussion and vote for public comment at the end of council meetings. Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mr. President. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been walking through the neighborhoods, and 3 residents said to me, how do they get on a council agenda? I explained the process, that they had to come in the Tuesday before. So we went back and forth, and they said, well, what if we forget or we don't remember and we have an issue and we want to come in? I said, well, right now, the way our council rules are designed, we don't have that system. You need to make a deadline. So I looked up an ordinance in Cranston that they passed in 2008. I'd like to send this to the ordinance committee, and it talks about boards and commissions having applicable time at the end of a meeting or at the beginning of a meeting to have an open comment. Not that we're taking votes, but just for the residents to comment. And I certainly understand that it's nice to be prepared. And I admit, when I was council president, I always liked to know what was on the agenda so we would be prepared, so we weren't asked any questions that we didn't know. But if it's a comment or a concern, and it would take all the way to next month for something to be done, and then it was made as a suggestion to one of their district council persons, it may even help expedite issues. So I'd like to make a motion to refer this to the ordinance committee for a public comment section, along with the City of Pawtucket's ordinance that they adopted back in 2008.
Okay, motion's been made by Councilman Catanzaro. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman DeStefanis. Is there any questions or comment?
I did.
Go ahead, Councilman.
So, Councilwoman, I'm in favor of this. I love it when the public comes forward and they speak. I just have one question. So
Yes.
being the new person on this council, only been here a year, while you were council president, did this ever come up?
I think one time a gentleman came and he wanted to speak, and it wasn't on the agenda. And I was fairly new at the time, and if you weren't on the agenda, we didn't want to have you speak, but if there was an issue, you could make a brief statement. It was new for me as well, because it wasn't on the agenda, and that's how our council rules were. So we tried to stick by the council rules, saying the public would need to put their name on an agenda if they wanted to speak. And then as time went on, we were a little more lenient with who showed up to speak on an item. We'd give them a few minutes to speak. And I guess as it's evolved, and I was questioned just by a couple of people, I mean, I've gone to several homes, I really didn't have a great answer for them other than our rules don't allow it. So I said, I'll propose it to the council, and that's really all I can do, and we can vet it out, look at the pros and the cons. Maybe we'll get some interested residents speaking for and against it. It's just a proposal. I may be convinced either way myself, but I did tell the residents I would put it on for that reason, and that's why I got an ordinance from another community that does it.
Mr. Snodgrass, did you want to speak?
Yeah.
Good evening, Council. Brendan Snodgrass, 46 Sunflower Circle. And I wanted to say I was really happy to see this on the agenda tonight. I thank Councilwoman Catanzaro. I thank you, Mr. President, for letting me speak. This is something I really do feel strongly about. I've actually wanted to talk about this for years, but I didn't get a chance to talk to you till January about it. And I can tell you that I've done research on this, and every town I did research in Rhode Island, I'm not going to say every town in Rhode Island, but I did about 5, and all of them had public comment. I didn't even bother going down the rest of the list, because I'm like, the first 5, I've talked to town council members all over the state, some retired, some on councils, some ex-councilors. I asked them all the same question. I said, has there ever been a problem? They said, same exact carbon copy answer. Nope, we've never had a problem with it. We've never had anyone get unruly. We've never had anyone get out of line. They said, occasionally, maybe once a year, you might get a hot topic where you get 30 people. You got to limit them to 2 minutes or something like that. But all of them said the same thing. They said there's never, ever been a problem with it. I think we're long overdue for it. I'm not criticizing you because it's just something we don't have, and it's something that, obviously we're working on, and these things take... I've talked to you, Mr. President. I know you're not opposed to it. I know you approach things cautiously, and I appreciate that because that's definitely the right way to do it. You don't want to make knee-jerk judgments, and I know you and I've talked about it. I've talked to Councilor Catanzaro. I know you're obviously bringing it to the table, so... But I just want to say I support it 100%. I think it's a great idea. I don't see any harm in it. Obviously, you have to put it to the ordinance committee and talk to the lawyers and everybody to make sure it's okay. But also, you know, I would say that in January, I thought we had some really good testimony from Gary Arnold, Brian Quirk, and Barry Schiller. All gave some good testimony on this as well. So, you know, if we do go back and consider it, you could look at the tape from that, and I think if you watch that tape, you'll see some really solid and articulate testimony from everyone that spoke. So, that's all I have. Anyone have anything?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Did you want to add, Chief? Go ahead.
Councilwoman is proposing an ordinance. I don't think you have to do it by ordinance. It doesn't matter how you do it. I think that's part of your council rules. Now, someone who was on the council for 10 years, you could always have someone speak if you have unanimous consent of the council. Do you have that in there now?
No, it's still,
Is it still in there?
Yeah.
Yes.
So anyone could speak with the unanimous consent of the council. As far as having an item on the agenda where public comment, I agree with the gentleman. There's nothing wrong with that. I agree with you 100%. And I'm almost certain that if you check the school committee rules, they have a public comment session. So it's not an issue. As he stated, you just put a time limit on it if you think it's going to get out of hand. And if you need to extend it, you extend it as a body. So it's not a big issue. It was always my belief, and we've been here a number of times where we wanted to get something on the agenda and couldn't even get a vote to see if there was a unanimous vote. Now, if one person is opposed to it, then you don't do it. But there is an avenue to do that right now, if it's still in your rules. Doesn't have to be done by ordinance. I think you just change the rules of the council and you could do it. You can do it by ordinance. It doesn't matter.
My only concern, and I look forward to talking about this. I've talked to Mr. Snodgrass about it. My only concern, I look forward to debating this in committee because I think it's healthy, and I think this is something that, you know, I do hope, Council, that the residents do come out. I want to hear their opinions. I like to be efficient. I like to have a meeting.
Me too.
We put something to a committee, and then by the following month you have an answer. My only concern is when you do have public comment on an agenda, will people not put things on the agenda anymore? So therefore, we can't have a prepared answer for them, and it may delay the process. But again, that's something I look forward to.
Again, like I think, and that makes sense too, Mr. President, but I think if you put a time limit on it, you say, you got 2 minutes to speak. Some people just like to and if they carry on, then you just rule them out of order. I mean, they have to know that before it starts, so I don't think that's a problem.
Mr. President, can
Go
I
ahead.
jump in? I like Smithfield. You know, I've gone to their meetings, I've seen them. They have public comment. It's kind of like the public can come up and share their ideas, and the council sits and listens. It doesn't vote, it doesn't comment, it listens to the public, and that's it.
No.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing.
As
these
a resident,
ideas.
I don't see any issue with it.
Okay, so a motion's been made, I believe, by
Yes.
Councilman Canzaro.
Ray seconded it.
And seconded by Councilman DeStefanis to send this to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 17,
Thank you, Mr. President.
poll location, discussion and possible vote with regard to petition from National Grid for a solely owned pole on Sweet Street.
sweet.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to grant poll location.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Juicy, seconded by Councilwoman Brady. Any discussion, questions? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 18, board appointments. Town council with discussion and action with regard to the appointment of a minority member to be made to the North Providence Board of Tax Review to replace Mary Beth Salkowski, who has resigned. Okay, as of right now, they do not have a board appointment, so we will send that. I'd like to entertain a motion to send the minority party or a letter to remind them that there is an opening.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Juicy, seconded by Councilwoman Brady. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 19, claims submitted. Town council discussion and action with regard to the claims received from the following. Gary Eccleston, 42 Pearl Avenue, North Providence. Vito Paglia by attorney Joseph Morosco, 685 Westminster Street, Gloria Mitchell, 77 Tiffany Street, North Providence, and Stephanie Lenato, 8 Carol Ann Circle, North Providence. Do I have a motion to send these claims to the Claims Committee?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Brady, seconded by Councilman
Formality.
Warren. Any discussion? Any questions? There being none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Item number 20, Claims Committee Report. Town Council discussion and action with regard to the Claims Committee Report to be presented by Councilman Fiola. Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. President. We held a meeting earlier this evening prior to this meeting. I'll go down the list in detail to explain the resolution of these claims. Gloria Mitchell, forward to the town carrier. That was a sewer claim. Mr. Eccleston was approved for $200. That's a sewer claim. Ms. Leonardo, that was approved. That was sprinkler head damage from the plows, $36. 36. Mr. Paglia, represented by his attorney, Morosco. That's being forwarded to the town carrier. And this was forward to the town, that was a personal injury, slip and fall. And Mr. Dooley, that was damage to property from plows. We approved $900 of the amount.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the Claims Committee Report as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Canzaro, seconded by Councilman Warren. Any questions? There being none, all those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 21, Finance Committee Report. Town Council discussion and action with regard to the Finance Committee Report to be presented by Councilman DeStefano. Councilman?
Mr. President, Finance Committee met on Wednesday, May 11th. At that meeting, we discussed the Neighborhood Road Resurfacing Program, and we discussed the potential of joining the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank Program, which we're currently looking into. Our legal counsel was kind enough to supply us information on it. I understand that the administration is looking at using $1.4 million this year to pave 40 roads, but the potential to go out to bond for another $2 or $3 million could really help to get us in front and ahead of the serious problem that we have with most of our roads. We have 687 roads in our town. Doing 40 of them right now is a great idea, but we need to really do more than 40. We need to do 100, maybe 150 of them. So we, at the Finance Committee, are going to continue to research the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank. The second item was the tax stabilization agreement for the property located at 1840 Mineral Spring Avenue. We gave Dr. Farina an offer that we worked with the tax assessor on. Dr. Farina took that offer, came back with his legal counsel, and tried to renegotiate, tried to negotiate his own offer. We're currently reviewing that, and we'll take that up at the next Finance Committee meeting.
I have a question, Mr. President.
Councilwoman?
Is the road resurfacing program, the federal program that's available, what
No,
Congressman Cicilline's working on, that one?
It's a state program.
Oh, okay.
So it's essentially what occurs is it's a state program that the town would submit through. Multiple communities are involved in it. The bonding's already, the fees, it's kind of like you're sharing the cost to go out to bond for it. The bond rate is already pre-negotiated, but you do have to submit to the state, the infrastructure bank, what roads you're doing, and those roads, I believe, Mark, we can target, if we have to.
You have to target the roads, and the other municipalities are targeting the ones that help your infrastructure and help the economy, like the commercial roads.
Yep, great.
Commercial businesses, those more than that. But like Councilman said, it's a full type of bond process.
Is that the one that's in our ordinance? Oh, it's different? The one in our ordinance is for $1 million for road resurfacing, and it's categorized as a grant. Is that one? No?
No, this would be something separate.
Okay.
So this would be to take the 40 roads that DPW is doing, let the town do that with the 1.4 that we've designated, and then to go out separately for another 50, 60, 70 roads through
Okay.
the state.
All right, great, thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the finance report?
So moved.
Second?
Motion's been made by Councilman Catanzaro, seconded by Councilman Brady. Any further questions? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 21, Ordinance Committee Report, Town Council discussion and action with regard to the Ordinance Committee Report to be presented by Councilman Giusti. Councilman?
Yeah, we had a meeting on June 2nd. Discussion was to amend ordinance 97-056, prohibiting smoking in public recreational areas. We had a new ordinance drawn up, which you should have on your iPad, and we eliminated one section of that, and the little section that we eliminated was including but not limited to electronic cigarette devices. That was removed, so those will be allowed in the parks. Everything else will be in violation. We also added to section 22-19 of the new ordinance a fine of $100. The ordinance committee recommends passage of the new ordinance with those changes. And a hearing take place. And the, say again?
In August.
Hearing in August. And it's for ordinance 16-008.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the Ordinance Committee Report.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Brady, seconded by Councilman Warren. Any further questions?
I just have a comment,
Go ahead,
Mr. President.
Councilwoman.
I just want to thank Councilman Giusti for the work that he and his committee did to see that this important ordinance was passed to help create a healthy environment for our children and families by prohibiting smoking and tobacco use in our public recreation areas. Thank you, Councilman.
Okay, a motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 23, tax abatements under $1,000. Town Council discussion and action with regard to the list of tax abatements under $1,000 received from the acting tax assessor and Board of Tax Review in the amount of $717.40 for motor vehicles. I have a motion to abate $717.40. Motion's been made by Councilman Warren. Do you have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Catanzaro. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion been made by Councilman Warren, seconded by Councilman Catanzaro. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Meeting adjourned.